At CareFM, you can choose the abortion care that works best for you. With in-person visits in Atlanta, Chicago, and the D.C. area, or medically supported abortion pills by mail in 20 states. Some people feel more comfortable meeting with a provider in person and leaving either no longer pregnant or with pills in hand. Others prefer getting abortion pills by mail. Just fill out a short online form and, if eligible, your medication arrives in a few days in a plain package. When you choose abortion pills, Cara, our text-based abortion companion, is with you every step of the way, offering 24/7 support and answers whenever you need them. However you get care, CareFM will support you every step of the way. Learn more at carefm.org.
In Walmart's Who Newville, joy started to grow. For online-only savings sure to steal the show. Tech treats and toys so dazzling and new. Walmart Cyber Monday deal soon ready for you. It's online only with very little time to spare. December 1st will soon be here, so be sure to be there. The Who's are prepared. Are you ready too? A day packed with savings. Amazing! Who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
War is a continuation of state policy.
By other means.
Yes. By other means.
Why did you ask to be relieved from duty in France?
I want to get the Iron Cross.
Here's to the last Russian bullet. Do you ever think about your children?
Always.
Where are they?
I don't know.
What are we doing here?
We are spreading the German culture throughout a desperate world.
In my mind, there is nothing more contemptible than stealing the laurels which probably belong to a man who was killed in action.
Everybody looks like someone else around here.
Situation is worsening here. You're needed.
I firmly don't believe that the ideals of the German soldier, even
The German soldier no longer has any ideals.
Why do you want it so badly? It's just a piece of worthless metal. It's not worthless to me.
Hänschen klein ging allein in die weite Welt hinein.
Hello and welcome to Aspects of History's Film Club. Every month we pick a historical film and chat about it with myself, filmmaker Tim Hewitt, and historian Roger Moorhouse. This month it's Cross of Iron, starring James Coburn, Maximilian Schell, James Mason, and David Warner. We chat about the movie, and then it's our awards, including the much-coveted Simon Baker Award for Best Performance. Please do share the pod with family and friends, and if you can leave a kind rating, I'd be most grateful. But until then, it's me, Roger, and Tim, and Cross of Iron. Roger, Tim, welcome to the latest episode of our film club. And the film that we are doing this month is, well, it's Cross of Irons, directed by Sam Peckinpah. And so welcome, Tim. Welcome, Roger.
Hello.
Hello, Ollie. Hello, Tim.
This is a 1977 film. Now, listeners, guess who picked the film? No prizes for guessing it was Roger had picked this film. Um, and I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I watched it again and I realized why I hadn't seen it in a long time. I
Wow.
Controversial.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Harsh.
don't know about this.
Harsh.
I found
Well,
it
not-
yeah. So okay, should we just do a few basics? Cross of Iron.
Yes.
I actually thought it was based on the Sven Hassel books, but it isn't. It's based
No.
on The Willing Flesh by Willy Heinrich,
Mm.
Mhm.
who
Loosely?
himself fought on the wrong side in the Second World War.
Mhm.
And so this stars, I mean, it's got a great cast. It stars James Coburn, Maximilian Schell, James Mason, and David Warner.
Mhm.
And Peckinpah, great director. Tim, where did it all go wrong? What did you think of the film?
Well, that's harsh. That's a very good question, but I don't think it went all that wrong. If you know Peckinpah's oeuvre, you may think that this is slightly below par, but I actually think that it's better on repeated viewings. I remember the first time I saw it and thought, I really like The Getaway. I like The Wild Bunch, which I know that I believe Sacrilege you two haven't seen.
Yeah, correct.
I actually I think Straw Dogs is a very strong film in all its nastiness. I think that I'm a massive fan of his last film called Convoy, which is just a Chris Christopherson and a bunch of truckers based on a song.
Yes.
And so, you know, a lot of people may
Pat
think
Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Brilliant.
I think it's quite weak, actually, that film. Sorry. In just ruined a possible future film on the podcast. But I think this is better if you watch it more than once, because you kind of get rid of the I don't know, I want to say maybe the slog, but and you sort of you hang out with the characters. You start kind of get to know them a bit better, and I actually quite like the scenes in the trenches in their little base. But it's not his strongest film. By any means. There are quite a few things that kind of annoy me a lot, notably this repetitive use of every time there's an explosion, it's in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I like James Coburn, but I was always a bit baffled as to why he got leading roles as much as he did, especially after some catastrophic accents, notably in one of the most famous World War II films of all time, Great Escape, by the way.
Yeah.
Tim, are you suggesting here that James Coburn is anything less than utterly magnetic in this film?
Yeah. I'm not saying he's. I don't know. I think he's very good. I think he's a very good actor. It's just that sometimes the casting isn't entirely spot on. I don't think, but not to say that he's not really good in it. I think he is very good in it. It's just that there's something that is it's a little bit beige occasionally.
Okay.
Well, Roger, I think
you go, Roger.
We've both slightly. I'm more disparaging about it than Tim is. But why did you want to pick it, and what do you like about it?
Well, I should probably add that I think the last time I saw it was probably 10, 15 years ago. But my love for this film came from the first time I saw it when I was probably about 14, and I think looking back at it again in my 56-year-old self rather than my 14-year-old self, I sort of saw I think I saw more clearly it for what it was. So I'm less enthusiastic than I was when I was 14, obviously, but I still think there's a lot there to be praised. Shall we briefly explain what it's about?
I mean, the plot's a bit ropey, but
is this just sort of gilding a turd?
But if I do, if I do the plot summary, I'll slag it off and influence listeners.
Okay.
So
You're
perhaps
making
if
it
you
sound.
do it,
It's making it sound as almost as bad as Alexander.
Alexander's a far superior film to this. Now, okay, so the plot is we're in a German platoon on the Eastern Front. I think somewhere in Ukraine, actually. And
North Caucasus. Yeah.
Right, and they're obviously fighting the Soviets. There is a new officer arrives among the grizzled veterans of the Operation Barbarossa, and that he's played by Maximilian Schell. The grizzled platoon commander is a non-commissioned officer called Steiner, played by James Coburn. And Maximilian Schell is a sort of Prussian aristocrat, sort of the Junkers variety, I suspect. A Catholic, very aware of his class, and he's obsessed with winning the Iron Cross, which is, I think, an award for bravery or war crimes, depending on what side.
Wow.
And Maximilian Schell's name is, I've forgotten his name. Is it Stransky? That's it. Yes. He pretends that he was leading a counterattack when in fact it was a subordinate officer who is killed in the counterattack. And it all gets to the stage where his commanding officer, played by James Mason, doesn't believe the Iron Cross story, but has no real evidence other than Steiner to contradict it. So it looks like Stransky's going to get the medal, and then he gets a transfer back to Paris, which everyone wants that transfer from the Eastern Front to Paris. And that's basically the plot of the film, I think, roughly.
Wow. Now you have rather, if I may, Ollie, I think you've rather missed out the main point of the plot, which is that Stransky then, given that Steiner sort of holds his fate, not only the question of the Iron Cross, but also the fact that he could be, stripped and disciplined, that Steiner holds that in his hands. When they then are withdrawing, he doesn't pass on the withdrawal order to Steiner's platoon, so they're effectively left out in the cold to be sacrificed. That's the logic. So it's essentially that's the story of Steiner being potentially sort of sacrificed by his own superior, and then how he brings his platoon back again, which he does at the end, brings what remains of his platoon back again. So I would just, as I said, watching it again, I think first of all, I think there's a lot wrong with it. I think, Peckinpah was known for his, blood and guts and his explosions and all of that, and the sort of slow motion, the stuff that Tim talked about just now. And that grated quite a lot to my 56-year-old self. I felt a couple of times like I was watching an episode of The A-Team.
It's okay to want an abortion. Did you know 1 in 4 people who can get pregnant will have one? So it's actually more common than most people think. At CareFM, you can choose what type of abortion care works best for you. We have in-person locations with private entrances in Atlanta, Chicago, and the Washington, D.C. areas. And we also offer medically supported abortion pills by mail in 20 states. For some people, it's more comforting to come into a private office where they can sit with one of our medical providers and either leave no longer pregnant or with abortion pills in hand. For others, they prefer to get abortion pills through the mail so they can decide the best time and place to complete the process. Getting abortion pills by mail from CareFM is simple. Fill out an online form, and a licensed provider will review your medical history. And if eligible, your medication will be shipped to you in a couple of days. Kara, our text-based abortion companion, will guide you through the process from start to finish with instructions, reminders, and answers to all your questions whenever they come up 24/7. With either choice, please know CareFM will support you every step of the way. Learn more at carefm.org.
Yeah.
I got A-Team vibes from this.
Yeah. I think it was a style in a way back then.
It was absolutely. It was very much of its
dated.
time. Yeah. But then again, the sort of the realism that he tries to bring in. I mean, if you think a lot of war films of the 70s, you know, everybody is, you know, wearing pristine uniforms and is cleanly shaven and all that. So there's that realism that is in this film, which I think I wouldn't say this is revolutionary, but it, you know, for example, you know, Steiner is wearing a chest full of, you know, medals and badges as he would have done as a sort of, you know, as a veteran of infantry combat on the Eastern Front. And if you check them, they're all kind of correct. They're all things that he would have, someone like that would have worn.
Oh, what are they, Roger? Because I'm always quite interested in the.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, he has the Iron Cross first and second class.
So what's the equivalent in British or American medals? Is the Iron Cross like the military cross or the DSO?
Oh, that's a question. No, because
Oh, the
they were.
Victoria?
No,
We're
no,
not talking Victoria
not
Cross.
Victoria. No, they were issued in their millions. I mean, I think it's something like 8 million Iron Cross
really?
second class. Yeah, second class. I think were issued.
Does that correspond with the number of innocent victims that they slaughtered on the Eastern?
Wow. Right. Okay, Ollie. I can see where you're coming from. It's Germanophobia is what it is. Germanophobia.
No, it's murderous death cult phobia.
Let's put a pin in that and come back to that in great detail.
Yeah, we will return to that.
So he has got this sort of chest full of badges, you know, the infantry assault badge, he's got the close combat clasp and so on. And they're all things that he would have had. And there's a great scene where, you know, he says, where Stransky actually says, I want the Iron Cross. And then he says, well, I can give you mine. Like, it's like a throwaway thing. I'll give you mine. And he tosses it across the table. And interestingly, he has got the combat clasp in gold, which is infinitely rarer than the Iron Cross was, right?
Which one was that one then, Roger?
That was the one that was up. It was kind of long, oblong, and it's up above the pocket line.
And is that like the Victoria Cross then?
No, again, not really. I mean, I suppose the VC would be some. I don't know. What would it be? Something like a. I don't know, like the Knight's Cross, which is the one that's worn at the throat. That, you know, successive levels of Knight's Cross. You could take one of those fairly high up to be something equivalent.
Is the Victoria Cross essentially the equivalent of the Medal of Honor?
Yes.
In the States.
In the States, yeah, I think so. There's nothing immediately equivalent in the German system.
They also, Roger, sorry to interrupt. They also have those red things on their tunics, but with the buttons
in the
by the
buttonhole.
button.
Yeah, that's an Iron Cross second class. So that's
see.
just a ribbon that's worn across the buttonhole. Yeah.
Okay.
That's Iron Cross second class. So yeah, so he's got this sort of chest full of medals. So it's that I was talking about, that sort of realism, you know, and they're dirty and they're unshaven, and there's that character that stinks, right? And they make a point the fact that he stinks, and he says, you know, that he says, this is my way of sort of, you know, coping in a way. So that realism, I thought, was really, I still find quite impressive that they obviously did some sort of homework.
And apparently the weaponry is meant to be,
and the weaponry is
very accurate.
They're using Soviet weaponry, which is very, very common. That was called the Pepesha, which was you know, that wooden stocked and then with the round magazine. That was the standard Red Army submachine gun at the time, and they're all, you know, well, some of them are using that, which was very common because it was ultra reliable. Like you could you could drop
more reliable than the Schmeisser.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So Steiner, for example, uses a Pepesha all the time, and that was very, very common. So that sort of realism, I'm still impressed by, essentially. And then the other aspect that I think is very significant, and I think very significant here, is the fact that it tells the story from the German perspective, which I know Ollie's going to balk at, but if you think back, you know, prior to that, the Germans are usually portrayed in war films, particularly, I mean, obviously British and American war films, as, you know, either kind of scheming, evil, you know, Prussians or Nazis or whatever, or kind of bullet-headed, idiotic grunts, right? You know, two-dimensional doesn't even cut it. You know, they were barely one-dimensional. And this is 1977. And I think I'm right in saying that for a you know, Hollywood or British film, this is really the first time that that it's first of all told from the German perspective, and that the Germans are portrayed as rounded, you know, human beings, with emotions and with thoughts of their own and all of that. So it brings a lot of that stuff out. They are shown as, a group of characters. They are shown as having. There's that great scene in the dugout where one of them kind of at the birthday celebration, and one of them explodes, and he says, "What the hell are we celebrating for? We're all going to get killed." So that, like, there's PTSD. That it actually shows them as sort of rounded human beings, which I can see Ollie frowning. Which is, I mean, I think that it's much less significant now because we've had Stalingrad, we've had Das Boot. Das Boot was what, 81, 82? This is 77, and I really don't think it had been done before.
Maybe that with the slight exception of, but it wasn't all from the German point of view. But I don't know, we did it. It was The Longest Day.
Yeah,
where we saw some characters, but
Not
of
really
course
goes
there are
there.
loads of other characters that aren't German. But that they were sort of seen as just sort of like professional German. They weren't, I guess, one-dimensional. But this is, I would say, the first time that the entire film has been.
Yeah.
I mean, Where Eagles Dare
the Eagle has landed was a year before.
Yes, but it wasn't very good.
Oh, it's better than this. Much better than this.
Michael Caine as a German, hysterical.
But James Coburn doesn't even bother with
no, I know. I mean, at least in this film, I'll be honest. At least in this film, there are German. Aside from the fact they're all speaking English, but at least they're German actors
speaking English.
Speaking English.
Yes.
Of course. And Russian. Not only Germans, I suppose, but.
Yeah.
But I guess there was no point in James Coburn in doing a German accent. Maybe they thought, no, don't do an accent anymore, James.
Yeah, don't even try.
Please.
Well, James Mason does an accent, doesn't he?
He does a James Mason accent.
He does a peculiar. Yes, it is a James Mason accent. That's right. Yeah.
So
I think actually, I take the point about, it's dated. Some of it feels like watching the A-Team. There are some weird scenes in it as well, like the hospital scene, which is where they're kind of trying to show that these guys are being sort of profoundly damaged by what's going on, what they're participating in, and the scene with the Soviet women I thought was a bit gratuitous, but then I read that the guy that put the money up, one of the executive producers, had actually made his career in German porn, so perhaps that's why. He felt that
coupled with the fact that a major aspect of Peckinpah's filmmaking, I'm dying to get it in, is his alcoholism.
Yes. Well, we have to talk about that,
and we've got to talk about because I don't know why, and sometimes can't put my finger on it. But when you watch all his films, you can't help but think there's something in this guy's personal life that's a bit skew-with.
Right.
I don't know that, like you mentioned the Russian women. Then you look at other aspects of some of his films, the infamous rape scene in Straw Dogs. Sometimes his treatment of women actually in film, the way it was such a bit of a shock when Steve McQueen smacks his partner around the chops in The Getaway, just kind of so brutally and out of the blue. Some of the violence, just in general, even in this is a little bit milder, I would say, than some of his films, but there's it was beset by issues, delays, not only because of funding but because he would go on a binge drink.
Yes, he discovered Schlivovitz apparently, which is
right.
It was all, as you know, Tim, it was all filmed in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
So using a lot of, so the T-34s are, Yugoslav army tanks. So hence some of that, at least some of that originality. And in the process, apparently, Peckinpah discovered Schlivovitz. And one thing I read the other day, it said that he was doing 4 bottles of Schlivovitz a day. Now this is plum vodka. That's not good. That's 4 bottles of vodka a day.
Even on your day off. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to direct a film, it's interesting, like going back to saying about the plot, with all of this in mind, how much of the script was there when they started filming is, difficult to say. But I kind of have always thought that Cross of Iron's a bit of the war equivalent of a hangout film, which, I mean, if that's what It's one of Tarantino's favorite phrases, which we'll obviously come to. But it's like it's not really plot driven. It's more that you kind of get to know these characters a little bit like sort of the war equivalent, Second World War equivalent of something like Rio Bravo, where everyone's kind of cooped up due to some sort of external force.
Yeah. You see that's really interesting because sorry to interrupt you, but I think that was one of the things that I thought watching it was how would I now, with the benefit of whatever it is, the 50 years in between almost, how would you sort of do it now, and how could it be improved? And it was pretty much what you just said. So I'd cut the hospital scene, I'd cut that scene with the Russian women. You'd focus in on that platoon, and you'd make it a sort of a character piece.
Yeah. Little like the sort of theatrical equivalent of Journey's End.
Yeah.
The First World War play. You kind of, it could be really use of great claustrophobic atmosphere. Maybe even don't see much on the outside. I thought that would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
We're not trying to remake. Well, Ollie would want to remake this, but the or the sort of modern equivalent of something like Dazed and Confused, or which is obviously not it's a little bit more lighthearted, but
it's 30 years old now, Tim.
Sorry?
It's 30 years old.
Whoa. Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is crazy. So that's why I think, because there are characters here that are interesting enough.
Yes, I agree.
I really like James Warner's. I think I would like to have seen a bit more of him.
David Warner.
Sorry, David Warner.
So his uniform, Roger, he had this sort of scrambled egg on his uniform, didn't he? You know that?
Oh yeah, yes. I think certainly James Mason did. Did Warner as well?
No, I think it was only Warner who did.
That was the fried egg, which is the German cross in gold, which was an extremely high level of.
Maybe that's the Victoria Cross one then.
No, I don't think so. I think that was only for. See, all of these, they had a sort of strict delineation that the higher awards, like the Knight's Cross, for example. I think they generally were only awarded to officers, so it didn't have the sort of the democratic element that, for example, the VC had. So things like that, that would be for commanding a great victory. You'd get either the Knight's Cross at the throat or that sort of German cross in gold. So yeah, anyway, I mean, we're getting lost in the weeds of German orders.
Sorry, it's my little interest. Yes.
Yeah, they called it the fried egg because it looks like a fried egg.
I like, obviously, the bits in the bunker and you're right, because you get a little bit more of a character of it, and it was really interesting with the Nazi Party member and how.
Yeah.
Although it seemed convenient to have. We've got to delineate. This is a film about the Wehrmacht on the Eastern Front. We've got to have a Nazi Party member who can be the bad guy.
Yeah, okay.
And then
I agree. It's too neat.
We can all be well, in my view, the less bad guys, but still, they weren't.
Yeah, but no, absolutely. I absolutely take that point. Absolutely take that point.
Which is a little bit funny coming from Peckinpah, because sometimes he's not neat. He's quite messy, actually, which sometimes makes his stuff a bit more interesting. I don't know.
In what way?
Well, just in general, some of his use of disagreeable characters. You can look at something like Straw Dogs, and it's I don't know, it's very murky and grey, and you really don't know what, like wild animals that you just don't know how they're going to behave. Maybe, I mean, that's obviously down to the writing and what happened when they were actually writing the script, and how that was going whilst they were shooting, or substantially delayed. I don't know if there were rewrites, or there's a lot of extra stuff on the 4K Blu-ray that is available, just so you know.
Have you got it?
Features. Yeah, I've got it. So it's strange that in a film like this there is a sort of bow tie, nice ribbon on plot points like that you mentioned, because
that is a very minor point, to be fair. That character, that's a very minor point in the plot.
Yeah. What I did like, and this is going to, and again, it's character, I think, based, and I would submit this as one of my favorite scenes, is, I think, Stransky, Maximilian Schell is great in it. I really like it. I think he's very good. And I think one of the best scenes is when he, with that smiling, smoking facade, when he coaxes the guy to basically try to admit that he's gay.
He's gay, yeah.
I think it's a great scene.
It is.
It's a great written and it's greatly acted. And I wish that if that had seeped more into the film, that kind of character interplay,
I agree.
it could have been a great film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit plot pointed, but I think it's more character based in its in its statement as well about what, this was illegal.
Yeah.
Hanging offense, I think. And it's the way he gets him to say, well, he doesn't actually say yes, but he's sort of.
Yeah,
he's very devious about it.
Yeah, very. And I thought, and I really like the arc. I mean, that's a very cleverly written scene, I think.
I agree, and that's where I'm coming from when I say that this, like you, I say it could have been a really good kind of character study with more of that and more focus, on Steiner's platoon and the characters within it, because they did have good characters within it. And that's maybe asking too much in retrospect for a film from 1977. But that's just what sort of struck me, that could have made it into a really, really fascinating film. Because I think the premise was actually quite good. The sort of plot was quite good. Incidentally, just to give a flavour of the losses that the Germans are suffering in that particular operation, which was what was called the Kuban bridgehead, which is where they're trying to escape. They were in, all of the German Sixth Army was in Stalingrad. That was then largely captured. The remnants, from the salient at Stalingrad are sort of pushed back westwards, and some of them end up in this place called the Kuban bridgehead or the Taman Peninsula, which is the other side of Crimea is like a diamond shape, and off the eastern point of the diamond there's the Sea of Azov, and then you've got across to, it's called the Kerch Strait, where the Russians have now built a bridge across there. So there's a bridgehead or a peninsula there, which sort of leads on to the northern Caucasus. So large numbers of men are holding that bridgehead against the Soviets, and then they finally try to withdraw across into Crimea, right? The guy that wrote the original novel, Willy Heinrich, who you mentioned at the beginning, Ollie, he was part of what was called the 101st Jäger Division, which was fighting in that very area. So this is semi-autobiographical, what he's writing about. He was in that theatre. The 101st Jäger Division, incidentally, through the war, had suffered 700% casualties, which means it got wiped out 7 times. This is
you think you'd be like, we're not really very good at this.
That's astonishing. So, yeah, I mean, that just gives you a flavour of what they were sort of, dealing with. I Ollie, before you say so, yes, they started it, all of that stuff. But that gives you an idea of what they were up against. 700%.
Do we know how many war crimes the 101st Jaeger Division?
we don't, Ollie. No, I'm sorry.
Do we not? No,
I haven't. I haven't seen
question.
It. No, I haven't. I didn't look for it. You could look it up and have a look.
I like that stat. That's a great stat, Roger.
We have to, just because of this, we have to do Das Boot, Downfall.
Yeah.
Stalingrad. There's many films from the German
Downfall we should definitely do.
Downfall. But that's my point. I mean, it has become almost kind of commonplace. But I would say in 1977 it was much lesser. I mean, I would even say this is almost revolutionary that
the Eagles Landed had done it a year before.
But... Yeah, but the whole film, Ollie, is told from the German perspective. This was new for Hollywood.
Hello, Ollie here. Please forgive my interruption, but I wanted to let you know that at Aspects of History, we produce a digital magazine featuring articles, interviews, short stories and book reviews of the best historical writing available. Authors featured including Ben Macintyre, Lucy Worsley, Andrew Roberts and plenty more. An annual subscription is available for only $9.99, that's pounds or dollars. Yep, you heard that right. That's 6 issues for under £10 or dollars. Head over to aspectsofhistory.com to subscribe, where you can also gift subscriptions. Now back to the show. okay, just a few basics. It costs, I think, according to Wikipedia, it costs 6 million to make. It made a 1.5 million back. So it sounds like it was a box office disaster. But in West Germany, it was very popular.
But actually, I mean, it went super over
I make no comment about that.
No, okay.
It went really over budget though, because
they all ran out of money, didn't they? So I think
yeah.
I think I read that all of the crew were actually leaving the set at the end because they hadn't been paid, so they just kind of walked. So that the final scene, which kind of merges with the credits at the end, was all ad-libbed.
I thought the credits were very good, actually.
So that that final scene went.
That's
Polly.
Which the best part of the film, the credits.
Yeah. The final scene between Steiner and Stransky, where he sort of confronts him, and basically, Stransky's been trying to kill him and kill his men, and he finally gets back. Spoiler alert! But he finally gets back, and he confronts both Triebig, who was the one that was supposedly gay, kills him, and then he confronts Stransky, and then he sort of, they're being counterattacked at the time, and Stransky says in this pompous way, which I mean. If that was genuinely ad-libbed and because most of the crew had already left by that point, then I think it does give rise to what I think is one of the best lines in a World War II movie, where Stransky says to him, "I'll show you how a Prussian officer can fight," and then Steiner turns around and says, "And I'll show you where the iron crosses grow."
Great line.
Which is a brilliant line. You can hate the film, Ollie, but that is a brilliant line.
Almost as good as almost every line in Where Eagles Dare.
Well, that's true. Well, in a way, Stransky's the good guy.
Is he?
Yes, because he's killing German soldiers. Anyway, I should. One other thing, a few other problems I've got with the film are that the casting's odd in that. Okay, James Coburn was 50. I should imagine there were some 50-year-old NCOs, or he was 49. Seems a bit old for me.
I agree.
In fact, his entire platoon seemed like Dad's army. The colonel, played by James Mason was 70. How many colonels was 70 in the second?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'll go with that.
And I know it sounds like a superficial point, but it just doesn't make it look like a particularly. I mean, you could see why they lost if they were all,
It's quite a filmy thing to do, though. I mean, actually, you can think of a lot of examples where everyone's just too old or too,
that's true.
Dare I say it, too posh in Brit films.
Yeah,
everyone in the Battle of Britain was an aristocrat. It doesn't make sense. You know who actually we haven't mentioned, and I think he gives a brilliantly understated performance, is Igor Gallo, who plays Meyer, who's the one that's killed, who's the one that essentially led the he's so good in his naturalism and realism. I looked him up. Actually, I remember looking him up first time when I watched this about maybe a year ago or a couple of years ago, and I just wish he'd done. He's acting, but he should be in a lot more. And I thought he was really good. He stuck out at me.
Is he German?
I think no, he's not. I think I want to say Croatian or something.
Yugoslav, it says.
Is he? Yeah.
Well, okay, that's a bit vague, actually, isn't it? He is Croatian. Well done.
Croatian, right? Yeah, I thought he was great, and he's relatively young in this, I think.
Yes. I know you. I mean, you're right about the casting, Ollie. I agree. They're both way too old. But that said, putting that aside, to me, I think the sort of twin peaks of this were James Mason. The sort of humanity of James Mason's character comes through, I thought, very strongly. When he confronts Stransky at the beginning, when Stransky arrives and he's all sort of puffed and full of himself and saying how much he wants the Iron Cross and so on. And there's this sort of rather battle-hardened James Mason character, Colonel Brandt, war weary, I suppose you would say. And then that scene close to the end where he sends I think it's his adjutant, which is the David Warner character, and sort of sends him off with the evacuation, saying that Germany will need people like you. Whatever comes next, will need people like you. So go and do it. That's a very touching scene, I thought. Aside, if you set aside your Germanophobia, Ollie, I think you'll probably agree. But so James Mason and then James I still think James Coburn is I think he's absolutely magnetic in this film. I really do. His face is something to behold. I think he's got an incredibly craggy. You know,
You
he looks hard bitten. I think he's fantastic. He steals every scene as far as I'm
you
concerned.
must like his brief howl when the kid is killed.
Yeah,
Ooh-ah.
yeah, yeah. I thought he was great. I really do. I don't know. I mean, mate,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, let's do
I'm a
our. Should we
fan.
do our awards then? And
Yes.
perhaps you can give him a prize. Awards. I mean, in the Oscars, it was overlooked. Roger, you'll be
Oh, disappointing.
surprised to learn. But okay, so in our awards, we get to do first of all we'll do the best scene. So you've already
Scene.
nominated a few. I think the sort of approach by Stransky to expose the homosexuality, the scene with David Warner and James Mason where he sends the adjutant back to. And
Yeah.
a question I've got. I mean, the reality is that the David Warner may have survived to fight another day, but it's likely he would have been killed in the
Yes, very.
because
Yeah.
what's that statistic that you are very good on is the number of German soldiers killed, the total number of German soldiers killed in the Second World War by the Soviets was something like 4 out of 5 or something.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 of German soldiers killed were killed by the Soviets. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, that withdrawal. Let's to a little dose of reality. That withdrawal, had they succeeded in getting across to, out of that bridgehead where they were, they're still in Crimea. So then they've got to get out of Crimea, which was no easy feat either. So, the idea that the David Warner character might have survived the war is probably fanciful.
Right. So, and there any other scenes that you would like to include because those two don't involve James Coburn?
No. I would say the sort of the denouement of, this when they're coming through the lines and they tried to radio ahead, and they've got their password, which is demarcation, and they're being shot at because Stransky has basically said these are Red Army soldiers, and the in the heat of battle, who's going to know if they get killed or not? So he's kind of given the order that they're to be shot, and I think that it does pull somewhat at one's heartstrings because these are characters that you've grown to know somewhat through the film. And this is where I think, it's where I say if we had gone down the road, we go back in our time machine, we remake The Cross of Iron, you could make it that character piece, and then that final scene would be sort of unbearably tragic because these are characters that you've come to know really well. So it doesn't quite do that well enough, in my opinion. But still, I think the final scene is quite sort of harrowing, really.
Okay, well, we have to pick one. I probably agree with you, Tim. The sort of homosexual scene. Are there any other ones?
I would say that the birthday part, the birthday celebration scene where you have the PTSD, where the character,
that was quite good.
And then I forget the name of the character that smells, but he confronts the PTSD sufferer, and he just kisses him full on the mouth as a way of sort of shutting him up. Like it's like you would slap someone across the face, but he sort of kisses him on the mouth. And bear in mind, he's already said that he stinks and he's got rotten teeth and all the rest of it. But I thought that was, but it brought out the sort of the human aspect, which I thought was very interesting.
I did like the one who wore is it the same guy who wore the Soviet
the little cap, the
red
woven
star?
cap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was very good actually.
So that the birthday scene I thought was very, very good.
What are we settling on?
I think I would go along with the Lieutenant Trebig, who was the one that's supposedly gay. That one I think had a great sense of drama to it. That scene. And it
really, you don't quite know where it's going to go when you sort of think, what's he? He's very relaxed, lying down, smoking a cigarette, and just kind of being very friendly. And then he sort of introduces. It's very clever the way he introduces. Do you prefer? Oh, it talks about French girls. Oh, the French girls. Sings a bit in French. Oh, le sous le pont d'Avignon. And then it's like, you'd prefer to be with a group of, as a soldier, a group of men and a group of women, and you're like, uh-oh.
But then you can see he's sticking the knife in, and that's a very good scene. So I'm happy to go with that.
Okay, good. We'll settle on that. Right, most inaccurate scene. Now, I have a nomination. I think if you had a German platoon stumbling across a female platoon, I suspect they wouldn't survive, the women, and yet they're sort of treated very well, apart from one who then gets her own back.
Yeah.
But it just seemed that, I mean, that just seemed not particularly likely. Obviously, you
Yeah.
can't depict all the characters that you've spent most of the film building up and then turn them into, you know,
Rapists.
yeah, and then lightly killing them as well.
Yeah.
Because after all, these female Soviet soldiers are in uniform. They are enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the film could have just done without the scene.
I
Without
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it could have done without it completely.
It's exactly what, when I watch a Peckinpah film, I go, "Oh, what you do? You're such a nutter."
Although I quite liked
God.
when the boy, the young German soldier, got knifed by the woman, and she's in tears while she's killing this sort of supposedly innocent young man. That was quite.
But again, that was weird because she wouldn't have had any.
Well, then they just let her off.
They wouldn't have had any second thoughts about that.
And had his NCO found his man dead, he wouldn't have gone, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the whole scene is a mess. Not only because it shows, like Tim sort of alluded to, but it shows, Peckinpah's misogyny. There's a degree of misogyny in that. That scene.
I think.
And it's kind of ahistorical, and it doesn't really bring anything to the plot. So yeah, didn't like it.
Okay, good. That wins hands down. Right, best performance. So the nominations, because of course we do a
this is actor or supporting.
Best acting performance. The Simon Baker Award for best acting performance. And so this is got to be either James Coburn or Maximilian Schell as our two nominees, as our two leads, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, I can't really see beyond James Coburn. My James Coburn crush is,
I'd go Maximilian Schell every day.
Would you?
Yeah.
Tim,
which is interesting because he's German, Ollie. That's very interesting.
Very interesting.
As I say, I'm just I just don't like death cults. It's not really the nationality that's the problem.
He doesn't mind Prussians, but and homophobes. But yeah,
I think, but also because you've had this impression since you were 14.
Yeah,
just very young to have seen this film, by the way.
Yeah,
you know what it is. I think I have an issue with wanting to or expecting to see James Coburn in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Magnificent Seven. He was in a film Charade with Morton Mathau and Audrey Hepburn, which is a brilliant film. But he plays a sort of cowboyish, and it's maybe something I've never been able to get past.
No,
right. Carrot and Billy the Kid, of course.
And yeah, and he's also in Young Guns 2, I think.
Is he?
Isn't he? Something like that.
Oh yes, he plays John Chisholm.
Yeah. And the fact that why was he Australian in The Great Escape? I mean, why? What purpose? I think he may have gone, can I just do this because I want to, like Don Cheadle in Ocean's 11, just doing a Cockney accent for no reason whatsoever. Why? So that's why I can't get. I'm not saying he gives a poor performance or anything. Of course, there is the humanity. He's great, but I just think I'd choose Maximilian Schell.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Fair enough. We are a democracy, so
let's because Maximilian Schell is I don't know. There is a sort of burgeoning evil.
Yes,
but subtle.
Yeah, there's subtlety to that.
He's not the twirling moustache type villain. It's actually, he genuinely believes in what he's doing. He wants, he has a clear objective in the film.
Yeah.
And even the scene where he goes, "Can you sign this?"
Yeah.
It's kind of icky, and what the heck? He doesn't actually say, do this or I'm going to screw you out of, and I think he said, what was his offer? To give him any support after the war or something.
Yeah.
And it's awkward, and I think he's really good in it. I think.
No, okay. I'm happy with that.
He's great.
Happy with that.
Actually, I think he plays General Dietrich in the same year, in 1977, I think.
Yes.
Bridge Too Far?
Bridge Too Far.
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay. So obviously he saved on uniform expenses there. Right. Best supporting performance. The nominees. I mean, I don't know who are the nominees. David Warner's
definitely
very good.
put Igor in there.
I can't include James Mason for ageist reasons. But I just find it very difficult to believe there's a geriatric colonel.
Yeah. Who was the guy who played the guy with the bad teeth and the little sort of Soviet woolen hat?
Yeah.
I thought he was rather good.
Yeah,
I agree. I really liked him actually.
He was Burkhard Driest.
Yes. That was beautifully pronounced, Tim. Thank you.
Sorry, Burkhard Driest.
Burkhard Driest. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Never heard of him, but he was I thought he was good. I think probably David Warner's quite hard to see beyond because that was quite a nice.
I think he managed to portray a kind of like traumatized, war-weary.
Yes.
Seen it all, not impressed by anyone.
Yeah.
But also a level of competence that he had as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though he did seem to spend most of his time in the bunker.
He has a good line actually when they drink, and he goes, I won't drink to my health, it's not worth it. How about the end of the war? Well, that was quite a good line.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. So we're going to go with David Warner. He died a couple of years ago.
Let's do that. Go with David Warner.
Very good in Time Bandits, of course.
I was literally about to say. and The Omen, where he's decapitated by a flying piece of glass.
Of course, yes.
He's excellent, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're ticking along. What have we got? Oh, yeah. Tarantino loves this film, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a bit of a Peckinpah nut. Surprising.
But so this is the Tarantino award. This is if Tarantino made this film, for listeners who aren't.
I think he made. You know what? I think he would, funnily enough, do what we think would be a good idea, and do a sort of Hateful Eight hangout in inverted commas. Kind of all self-contained, with this increasing
more of a character study.
Probably funnier, but with like a bottled pressure building where something is gonna happen, be it an attack of some sort or something within the group that would explode.
Well, there's an excellent scene in Inglourious Bastards where they have captured 3 or 4 Germans, and Lieutenant Aldo Rain, played by Brad Pitt, has captured these guys, and he's wanting to interrogate them. I think 1 or 2 of them run away and get shot. And there's this German NCO who is played as a German actor. I forget the name of the actor.
Yeah. He auditioned for Hans Lander.
Oh, really? Well, that actor is excellent in it, and he's in it for 3-4 minutes, and he brings a kind of depth to it that you kind of do recognise in parts of Across the Bar.
He's actually a perfectly cast German soldier.
Yes,
Teutonic skull.
Yeah, as if he belonged to those 60s type war films.
Yeah.
Yes.
You cannot possibly think I would divulge information that would put German lives in danger.
Well, he knows every line. But the point is that it's I think you're right. Tarantino would do more in that characterization element of the film, and I
Yeah.
think the plot would lend itself to that. It would make it a much better film. But
He
maybe
wouldn't-
that's not necessarily the way things were done in the 1970s.
No, but which is interesting because Tarantino, one of the things, there was a really great interview with John Landis, great 80s director of Blues Brothers, American Wealth in London, Trading Places. And he was asked about Tarantino and he said, I like him. I really like him. I mean, I really like him, but his films to me are like essays.
Mm.
They're kind of film, and he has had this comment that his films tend to be about other films. It's kind of like he's saying, look how cool this style is that was, like the spaghetti Western and the way he shoots sometimes, or look at the way, the Men on a Mission film, like of the 60s, like Where Eagles Dare. Look how cool they are. And so sometimes when he's making a film, that film he's doing is kind of in the style of a film.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you could argue, something that's coming from the depths of his soul.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that if he were to do this Cross of Iron, he'd do it in the 70s, but sort of reinvent it in a Tarantino-esque, whether it's writing style or whatever. Yeah. But I do think he would do away with like the hospital scene wouldn't be there. The women, I don't know. Maybe he'd do. Maybe he would, but he'd do it in a sort of super vengeful manner.
Yeah.
In a sort of cathartic, the way the Jews kill the Nazis in Inglourious Bastards. Like that's their mission. But I just think that maybe the scenes in the trenches, in all of that it would be full of tension, but kind of like it would be deeply, lots of different identifiable characters with unique traits. Probably Samuel L. Jackson in there somewhere.
Not sure quite how that would work.
He'd figure it out. Someone
narrating it,
or narrating it, exactly.
Yeah,
but I mean that a Tarantino remake of Cross of Iron, I would absolutely pay to see.
I would as well, undoubtedly, because he would improve it.
If he's listening, maybe that could be his final movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because any updates on that, Tim? Because he had a script and then he changed his mind about it, didn't he? Because it
was in I think the press recently that he's concentrating on fatherhood for now. Something's up. I don't know. Who knows? Okay. It's all rumor.
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. Right. And then legacy rating. How do we think its legacy has done? I mean, last film we did was The Third Man, which got top marks, 5 out of 5 for legacy. Influence, the fact that everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
This, I don't know how familiar it is to people nowadays, Cross of Iron. Although I suppose, for the reasons you gave, Roger, I mean, that's not to knock it too much, because you're right. It is... It was unusual, even though The Eagle Has Landed had done it a year before. But
but not just to clarify that, Ollie, not just humanizing one or two German soldiers, but actually telling the entire story from the German perspective.
Yes,
but in terms of legacy, if you compare that notion to something like Das Boot, as far as I'm aware,
when was Das Boot out? 1980.
A couple of years late.
81, I think, something like that.
It's funny. Das Boot is brilliant. Love Das Boot.
And it has all of that stuff we're talking about. It's claustrophobic, and it becomes a character study because, in a sense, you can't really do much else with it because you're stuck in this submarine, right? So you're forced into what we're talking about, which is this enclosed, kind of claustrophobic character study.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think
which had been done before, though, submarine-wise.
But
40s films, but
okay.
But I agree, completely agree. Yeah.
There's a lot wrong with it. Like I said, the A-team element and all that misogyny, but I think in terms of legacy, look at the that element where you're foregrounding the German experience in a Hollywood film. I think that's makes it more significant perhaps than we would generally assume. I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So what?
Although it's
3 out of 5.
It's maybe 3 out of 5 because it's not even in Peckinpah's work, and it's not the one that people immediately mention.
If you were to do top 3, it
of
wouldn't
his
even make
films.
that. Of
No, I
yeah,
don't-
yeah.
no.
But even to talk about, as in a conversational, you'd do The Getaway, The Wild Bunch, and Straw Dogs probably, wouldn't you?
And you'd go, and yeah, I think, and then you'd mention others, and then you go, oh yeah, he did Cross of Iron as well.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe 3 is a bit generous, because I
don't know. 2.5.
if you were going to rate the film,
it's
if I were to rate the
definitely
film,
not a film if you think, World War II, regardless of point of view, you go World War II films. I don't know if anyone would mention it if you were thinking even top 20, 30 films.
Ooh. I think
Difficult.
I would. But
Would
then
you?
maybe that's my 14-year-old self again.
Doesn't surprise me, Roger. But if we had, I would pick Downfall in my top.
Absolutely brilliant film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That was in your top 10
Yeah.
when we did the very first podcast. I remember.
It was.
Well, Downfall, Come and See, which is amazing.
Oh, I haven't seen that actually.
Oh, well, then we could put that on the list. Absolutely.
Yeah, we should do that.
I think we were talking about this earlier. That I think one of my now that we mentioned Das Boot, one of my favorite films, submarine films, is We Dive at Dawn with John Mills. I think it's brilliant.
Have you seen? Go on.
No, just but I think way ahead of its time in a way. I just thought it was really great.
I haven't seen that actually. Have you seen The Enemy Below?
Yeah.
Oh, is that with it's American, isn't it?
Yeah, with
because that has a sort of semi-sympathetic portrayal of the German commander.
That is Robert Mitchum, isn't it? Kurt Jürgens.
Yes, that's it.
That's the chap.
Yeah, but that's
like the films where the Germans are the good guys. Don't you?
That's 50s, right?
Yeah, that's like 57 or
57.
Something. Yeah, it's very early.
Yeah. Carl Jürgens was
Kurt
Jürgens was in of course the Longest Day, but the great
yeah, we called him out. We gave him a prize. I think he got an award, best supporting
and the great villain in Spy Love Me.
Of course. Yes, Stromberg.
Yeah, Stromberg. So 2.5.
I think a 2.5 is a compromise. Yeah,
feels a little bit churlish. Feels a bit churlish. But no, I'll go with it.
Great. Okay, that's wonderful. Right. Well, we'll have to pick a film to come next. But listeners, that's your film club for this time. Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you very much, Tim.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks so much for listening. Coming up, we're doing a double bill to make up for our neglect in March. It will be a War on Terror 2-movie special with Zero Dark 30 and The Report. So please do subscribe or follow. But in the meantime, thank you and good night.